Hello and welcome to this week's Develo podcast. I'm Zylan van Eyck and with me is Mikhail Condé. How was that?
So close. I'm sure you're going to get it next time. We're getting closer and closer.
To give all the listeners some context, Mikhail's been going on and on at how I pronounce his surname. Can you get it? Can you give us an explanation, please? Can you give us a demonstration?
Condé.
Is that French?
It is French, yes.
Why'd you have a French surname as a Danish guy, man? Confusing us here.
That is a story for a different podcast. It's a great story. It's a really good story, but it's going to be for a different podcast.
Oh, I'm intrigued now. We'll have to hold you to it. I think this is the fourth podcast we've done this year, and it's still we're still on racing in Australia. It seems like the Australian racing season is going on forever, and it isn't done yet, is it?
But soon, right? I think we passed the biggest races now. Now we can start focusing on different parts of the world. Exactly.
There's the Herald Sun Tour, men and women coming up. Lineups are okay, but not obviously as strong as a World Tour race like the Tour Down Under and the lineup that the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Race had. Speaking of the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Race that happened this coming weekend, should we start off with the men's race?
Yeah, let's do that.
We've got
very impressive win.
Yeah, we've got some. We'll touch more on the women's race, and we've got an interview with Lotta Lepistö, and we've got some audio from the women's winner, Arlenis Sierra. So we'll touch on them in a little more detail. But to start off with the men's race, yeah, like you say, impressive win from Elia Viviani from a bunch sprint.
Yeah, exactly. Last year he lagged a little bit just to come back to the group and win, even though he came super fast at the end. But this time he left nothing up to fate. His team was amazing the whole time, and Mikael Mørkøv gave him an impeccable lead out. It was very, very impressive the way the whole Quickstep team, or the Koenig Quickstep as we're going to call them now, how they worked out this one. Very, very impressive.
I saw somewhere that Elia actually said that when people ask him about his amazing 2018 season that he had, his biggest disappointment and regrets was finishing second in Gent-Wevelgem and finishing second in this race, which is interesting when you look at the incredible season that he had last year. But yeah, he regretted not winning those two races. So obviously he was determined to come back here and win it. With the sprinters teams very committed to a sprint, This is a race in the past few years that sort of has had a very unpredictable finish, but this year it sort of had a more traditional bunch sprint.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there were some guys who were trying to upset the sprinters and make it hard on the last two climbs, but at the end, with the depth of the Koenig Quickstep now, there was really no dropping Viviani. Even Caleb Ewan was there. He messed up the final a little bit, but you know, when Ewan can be there, when Viviani can be there, then it's a sprint race now. So maybe next year it's going to be a small group again. But if the sprinters, if they bring as strong team as they did this time, then it's going to be very hard to drop the sprinters in the coming years.
Should we move on to the women's race now? That seemed to be an impressive win, wasn't it?
I think that came as a surprise to many. I mean, we talked about her earlier in one of the podcasts, Arlenis Sierra. Great talent, and you know, if you haven't read the story on Develo about how she came to Europe, you got to go out and check that one. It's an incredible story. But yeah, I talked with Sierra after she won the race and just asked her what went through her mind on those final kilometers. So let's hear that real quick.
Bueno, primeramente pensé que no llegaría, pero nada, cuando ya vi que me faltaba 1 kilómetro dije, bueno, Diosito, dame todas las fuerzas necesarias para ya llegar. Y ya cuando estaba llegando a la raya ya sabía que ganaría y esto me puso muy contenta, no sabría cómo explicar verdaderamente.
So, Mikhail, that was obviously in Spanish, and we'll leave it up to you to translate it for us, please.
Well, she says that at the beginning she didn't really believe that she would make it, but when she saw that 1 kilometer banner to go, she just put her head down and gave it everything. And when she started to see the line, she knew she would win. She's obviously very happy. She can't really she can't really describe her emotions right now, but she's super happy. And I talked with her a bit more about, we're not going to play it all in Spanish for all of you, but just going to say what she says, that in the group on the last climb. If you haven't watched the race, there was a small group of the strong climbers. They got away on the last climb. She couldn't really follow, she said, so she decided to keep her own pace. But with 15 meters to the top of the climb, she gave it all she had to try to bridge across, really, and she managed to do that on the descent. But then, being the fast rider, none of the others, they didn't really want to take her to the line, obviously. So there was a bit of attacking amongst the riders, and also Sierra, she attacked, and she got away with Lucy Kennedy. Those two got away, but with Kennedy having spread just behind, she didn't really want to work with her. So with 4 kilometers to go, she says that once again she just gave it everything she had and hoped for the best. And well, it turned out very, very well for her.
Yeah, winning solo by 19 seconds. That is really impressive by the Cuban rider, because behind her she did have riders like Amanda Spratt and Ashley Mulman-Pasio, Elisa Longo-Borghini, like you said, Lucy Kennedy. Those are some of the world's best cyclists.
Exactly.
And she managed to hold them off. And yeah, you plugged the story on Develo. It really is an impressive one. She comes from Cuba, was desperate to make it as a cyclist. She's now officially one of the best cyclists in the world, but her journey to getting there was incredible. So yeah, check that out on develo.cc.
Definitely.
I had a chat with Lotta Lepistö. So she has moved to Trek Segafredo this year, and she was in Australia with the team, but she didn't start the Tour Down Under because she was sick. She talks a little bit about that during this interview. And she eventually started at the race Melbourne, the Criterium in Melbourne, ahead of the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Race. And Lotta won that along with Trek Segafredo. And this is how that interview went. Can you tell me about missing the Tour Down Under, your first race with your new team, or was meant to be your first race with your new team?
I was in Gran Canaria. I was thinking it's good to go there to prepare a little bit for the heat and, of course, training. And then I got sick there. I had a little stomach bug, and then after the stomach bug, I got some fever and a flu. So and the travel overseas wasn't the best preparation. But yeah, on the race day, I didn't feel 100% yet, so I decided not to start. And of course, it was hard me to miss the race because the girls did really amazing that tour, and it was really sad not to be part of it.
But obviously that's hard to miss it like that. But do you think you're more experienced in your career now as well, that okay, I don't need to panic, the season's long still, I need to be patient?
Yeah, of course, it's still like January. Never started my season so early, so I haven't been panicking too much about it. Of course, it was not the nicest way to start the season, but season is long.
And then you bounced back really good in the Melbourne Criterium, and won it. How did that feel?
Yeah, it felt good. It was really nice to start the race with the team for the first time. I was a little bit nervous about it, of course, and it was a hectic criterium, and it was really hot on that day, and I was a little bit worried about the heat, but yeah, it went well, and I got some good support from the team, so I was really happy to win the race and also win the team race.
Why were you nervous?
Of course, you are a little nervous always before the first race of the year, I think. Well, it was only 60k, but I don't know. Criterium is always hectic, and I guess it doesn't matter what time of the year the criterium is, I would be nervous, I think.
So there was probably the element as well of wanting to impress your new team after missing the first race of the season.
Yeah, of course, a little bit. And of course, because this race was a little bit different than previous one, like it was like point race style, so you have to be awake all the time and not miss a chance, and you have to be smart also, like all the time, not to use too much energy between the sprints, and of course it was also important to show the girls that I'm there and that I wanted to be a part of the team and show that I'm there for them and yeah, it was nice start.
And how did the road race go?
Well, I felt, of course, when I didn't race the Tour Down Under, like that would be maybe good for Cadel because I felt like my endurance is okay and my sprint is okay, but I think everything between the endurance and the sprint is a little bit missing. So for me it was a little bit too long to race, but I tried to support my teammates like Elisa Longo-Burkina, Ruth Winder. So they did okay race in Cadel, and we still have one race to go. So I think the trip in here in Australia has been pretty amazing start for the team, I think.
Yeah, for a brand new team, there definitely seems to be a lot going right for you guys. It's very impressive. So what's next for you?
So we're gonna do some tour. It starts in a few days, and then we are heading back to Europe and then going to Spain, to Valencia.
So that's one of my favorite riders, Lotta Lepistö, very good friend of mine. And we were talking about her making a debut there with Trek Segafredo. And that is, she was one of the most wanted riders in the transfer market last year. She's obviously one of the top sprinters, and it sort of can be very stressful, isn't it, when you're trying to impress your brand new team and then you're actually ill and you can't start the race.
Yeah, it must be very, very stressful for her, the way she came into this one, obviously in good shape, it seems, and then having to bow out and then actually see her teammate win in the first stage in Tour Down Under, which probably helps a bit, but also just you got that eagerness to keep on, to show your new team what you can do. And well, she did, when she finally got the chance, she did. I think that we'll see great things from Lotta Lepistö this season.
Yeah, and Lotta is I always tell her she's got two personalities, off the bike. She's the sweet, gentle person. She likes jewelry. She likes a bit of fashion, but she's very, kind and soft-spoken. And then on the bike, she just becomes this ruthless killer. She'll take gaps that aren't there. She can corner like nobody's business. And when she sees the finish line, nothing's going to stop her. So she's a racer. So, it would have been hard for her to miss the Tour Down Under and then see the team do so well. And she would have wanted to be part of that, like she mentioned. So it's super to see her back in top form. And as she said, she'll be starting the Sun Tour. She'll stay in Australia and start the Sun Tour and get some more racing under the sun in her legs. Anything else to add for this week's podcast, Mikkel?
Well, nothing I can think of right now. It's been some good racing in Australia, but now it's time to move on to more reasonable hours to watch cycling.
That is for me in South Africa and you in Europe. We're not used to following races at all hours of the night on an Australian time scale. But they have to suffer for the rest of the season when they have to wake up in the middle of the night to watch 80% of the cycling season. So we won't go on too much about them too. Other racing going on at the moment, or just wrapped up actually, in Africa, the Tour of Gabon, Tropicala Misa Bongo. That was one that was cool to see. Andre Greipel was racing there for his new French team, managed to pick up the first win of the season, took him a couple of stages. And then off in Argentina, we've got San Juan that's just started, and we've got some big hitters over there who started the first season. And Mark Cavendish is back to racing, but Peter Sagan is over there. But again, it was the man, Fernando Gaviria, with his new team, UAE Team Emirates, who came out on top on the first stage. So we'll have a look and see how that race pans out and probably do a more fuller podcast on it next week. What do you reckon?
Definitely. Sounds like a good plan. There should be some really good stages. We saw Gaviria take the first one, but not as superior as he's been in the past. So let's see. Maybe the level is a bit more equal this year. And if Cavendish can come back and give him a run for his money, that will be very interesting to see.
Cool. Yeah, we'll look to do a longer piece on the race and see how it unfolds and try to pull out the most interesting parts. Remember to subscribe to our podcast, and please, can you do us a favor? Head over to iTunes and rate the podcast and comment and tell us what you think of it. And we're looking to do this weekly. We're looking to grow it. And yeah, we really want to find out what you like and what you'd like to hear more of. Which riders would you like us to speak to? This podcast is for you, so please rate it, comment on iTunes, and remember to subscribe. Also visit develo.cc. We speak to professional athletes who tell meaningful stories in the first person. I'm Zalen van Eyck, and he is Mikhail Condé. How was that?
So close, so close, so
Man,
close.
Come on, you gotta help me out, help me.